Got the game from the old school. Focus on break no rules. Operate on my own truth. I've been making my own moves. I keep hearing this game saying you could be the one if you so choose. Got the game from the old school. Focus on break no rules. Operate on my own truth. I've been making my own moves. I keep hearing this game saying you could be the one if you.
Alright guys, Fula coming to you with another video. Shout outs to the whole LDBC. So in this video I kind of want to talk about Fat Joe's comments that he made in the interview. I don't know who was interviewing him, but I just want to give my 2 cents on the comments he made. Basically the comments had to do, he basically said that all music was African, and he said that like the Latin American music genres have their roots in Africa, be it reggaeton, be it salsa, being bachata, being all those genres. He said that, Caribbean people are African, that Latin Caribbean people are black. And basically he's referring to the Dominicans, the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, you know what I mean? Basically all the Spanish-speaking countries is what he's referring to. I just want to give my thoughts on these things, I'm gonna say, he's partly right. There's some truth to his to what he's saying. I'm going to say that as far as the music is concerned, I would say that he's partly right in the sense that the African drum is pretty much like the origin of a sound. Because let's face it, the drum, that's how you remember kind of like a song. It's by the drum, no matter what kind of, how many beats a drum is, you always remember a song by boom, 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 boom. Yeah, that kind of rhythm, you remember the song, no matter what kind of song it is, no matter if it's a hip-hop song, no matter if it's a rock and roll song, no matter what kind of, what kind of genre we're dealing with. And where does that, where does that drum come from? Yeah, it comes from Africa, most definitely. Now, we do have string instruments in Africa that are traditional, like the kora. And the kora is basically kind of like, I guess you can say, it's kind of like a, I don't know how to describe it in I want to say, I don't know how to describe it, and I really don't know how to describe it really well in English, but it's kind of like, it's a string instrument, basically, okay? And it gives out a, unique sound. And I guess you can say it's a mixture between, a violin and, a guitar. It's like a mixture between the two. So I kind of can see his point in that. I don't know why, what prompted him to say these things, you know what I mean? I'm kind of wondering, did he say these things because of the political climate we are currently in the country right now? You know what I mean? Does the political climate, make him, say, yo, man, we all we got now, you know what I mean? And I mean, when you look at Fat Joe, he's you would think that, either he was a mulatto or he was just a albino black dude, you know what I mean? When you just see him off top, you know what I mean? Now, Fat Joe, I mean, on a personal note, I guess you can say that he was Big Pun's, I was one of Big Pun's right-hand men. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I don't like many Fat Joe songs, but this song that I put as an instrumental, I like a lot, that he did, Just Blaze Laced Them. you know, but I do respect the I guess you can say I respect the solidarity in which he's showing, because you know, I'm not gonna lie to you, you know, a lot of black people, you know, I'm talking about black people from America. They kind of get on me because, like, of my infatuation with Cuba and my infatuation with just, like, the Afro-Latin culture, you know, like the likes of the Afro presence in Colombia, the likes of the Afro presence in Venezuela, the likes of the Afro presence in all these Latin American places, because I guess you can say I have experienced it firsthand, and my family has a history of experiencing it. You know, it really started with my dad and my aunts and uncles. You know, when they were fighting for independence versus the Portuguese and the French. You know, some of their technical training was done in Cuba. You know, they were sent there to learn, study, and stuff like that. You know, so that was our first affair. And, you know, ever since then, you know, my dad has, even when I came to the United States, my dad made sure I was in touch with, like his Latin American friends here. You know, he put me in touch with them. He's like, I need you to keep these contacts, you know what I mean? And so our family has always had that affinity with Latin Americans of African descent, or you can say mixed descent, mulatto descent. Because I think the problem is there's two problems. The first problem is there are those self-hating Afro-Latins who don't want to identify with being black, and will try to like differentiate themselves from like just the black experience and stuff like that. And they do that in certain ways, like they go with like white dudes pretty often. They you know, just have their nose up sometimes. I mean, I've seen it a couple of times. Basically, they do what they can to, you know, talk quote unquote white. I mean, because believe it or not, there's a difference between talking proper and trying to talk like a white person. You know what I mean? There's a difference between the two. And so, yeah, I mean, you just talk proper. You don't gotta like try to have a white accent and all that shit. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about the situation. So that's the first problem we have. The second problem is there's some of these pro-black extremists, like some of these ADOS guys, who believe that like you're not supposed to get help from anywhere else, and that you admiring, for example, the Cuban Revolution, you admiring what Venezuela is doing, their revolutionary progress, you admiring what Grenada, their revolution, did, you admiring the Nicaraguan revolution. They look at that as you quote unquote cooning, you know. And so when you do things like that, when they do things like that and stuff like that, that turns me off, because then it lets me know, okay, well, you don't know what cooning is, you know, when it really comes down to it, you really don't understand the concept of cooning. Like, I remember one day I wore my Fidel Castro shirt, and this one black dude came up, and, you know, he just had a lot to say about that, and told me that I was like a bootlicker or whatever the case may be. And I'm like, okay, dude, have it your way, man. And so that's the second problem you have. Like, there's some people who do feel that way, but I could never feel that way, you know. And so that's another issue. And then there's the other issue too of like that whiteness just casting a thing over those Latin American countries. The one country that has maintained its kind of Africanness basically has been Cuba. But you see Dominican Republic and you see Puerto Rico, although they're Caribbean, Latin American countries, they try to like have whiteness more than anything. Like, you see like a lot of like you see a lot of these in novellas, these Puerto Ricans and these Dominicans who you would swear are from Europe, that they just imported them from Europe. And this is happening a lot more now. And so, that's the other issue. But I agree with him 100% on some of the things he was saying. Because I just look at the food of like Latin America in these places, and I say, okay, am I eating Latin food or am I eating African food? And that comes from the plantanos, that comes from the yuca, that comes from the malanga, but we have a different name for it in my language, and things like that. So I'm all for these connections with the Latin American world. I'm all for what Fat Joe said. You know what I mean? I'm all for that. And, God willing, what's going to happen without giving out too much information, like my enterprise, like the enterprising that I'm planning will take hold in Cuba. You know what I mean? Because me and my Cuban friend are talking about something like that. And it's a matter of just execution of this vision. And I plan to do so, And so, yeah, Fat Joe's comments, he was just basically letting the cat out of the bag, And he did talk about the unfortunate slavery of Cuba that in certain instances in time, there was more slaves in Cuba than there were freedmen, And then there's another thing that that really surprised me about, and which lets me know that they're definitely my long lost brethren over there in the Latin American world. I want to say when you look at the slave records, they identify the slaves by tribe sometimes. So you do see the Fulani tribe, which I am a part of, on the records. You do see the Mandinga tribe on the records. You do see the Susu tribe on the records. You see the Hausa tribe on the records. You see the Yoruba tribe on the records. And what also surprised me is that on these records you do see the records of Cape. And what that means when they say Cape, that means that that even some slave traffic did not end in Cape Verde. Like the slaves that were brought to Cape Verde, some of them ended up in the New World as well, So some were like caught there, like in Cape Verde, because there were already inhabitants of Cape Verde before the Portuguese quote unquote discovered it. We were taught in school, unfortunately, with the fascist Portuguese curriculum that the Portuguese discovered the islands, but that's not true. But yeah, so shout outs to Fat Joe for saying these things. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to get backlash from the rest of the Latin American world, but he was just letting the cat out of the bag, and it can be appreciated that he did that. But Fula signing out. Leave your thoughts, leave your comments on this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this page. We got a lot of good stuff coming on this page. We got a lot of vlogs coming, and I definitely will be in the building during the Showtime Sean Porter and Earl Spence fight, and hopefully these credentials will come through for me to be at the workouts as well. That's all I got for now, guys. Fula signing out. Enjoy.